Ready.
Ready to go? Okay, Brian, B-R-I-A-N, Ahern, A-H-E-A-R-N, Captain, Seneca Police Department Investigations. This incident started a little bit after 2 p.m. this afternoon. It started at a taco shop nearby at 2399 Ulrich Street. A witness who was driving by the taco shop saw 2 males out in front, one of them armed with a handgun, appeared to be threatening the second male. The witness also reported to police that she heard a gunshot being fired. 2 Seneca police officers responded to the scene, and when they arrived at the taco shop, both of the males who the original reporting party described had fled. The officers contacted one of the employees of the taco shop, who said that the person who had a gun was a male, possibly a black male, with a blue jacket and white stripes. One officer started to check the area and came upon 2 males at the southwest corner of Comstock Street and Ulrich Street. One of the males was wearing a blue jacket with white stripes. The officer believed that those were the males who were involved in the original disturbance and possibly shooting. The officer ordered both men to the ground. Initially, both men complied. The officer was by himself at this point, with the second officer en route now to that corner from the taco shop. At one point, a male dressed in the blue jacket with white stripes produced a handgun and began to stand up. He pointed the handgun at the officer. It was at that time when the officer sprinted back toward the rear of their car to take cover. The suspect began to run. He had a handgun in his hand, and he crossed Comstock Street, and he was running toward a daycare center. The officer pursued the suspect on foot, and then was shortly followed by the second officer who arrived at the scene. As the officers continued to follow the suspect, they saw the suspect enter the parking lot of the child care center. The suspect started to open a large gate that would have entered and given them access to the interior of the child care center. They were unable to open that gate, so they climbed onto a planter box and began to climb over the fence into the child care center. The officers were still in pursuit of the suspect. The suspect pointed the gun at one of the officers as he began to climb over the fence. The officer, still armed with a handgun, was attempting to climb the fence and enter the child care center. It was at that point where both officers fired their handguns, and the suspect was able to get over to the other side of the fence. As he did that, he threw the handgun that he was armed with back onto the parking lot side. That handgun is at the scene and was recovered. The officers went up to the fence line. One officer stood at the top of the fence line where the suspect was on the opposite side of the fence, and now directly inside the child care center. The officer gave the suspect commands, and the suspect complied with those commands and surrendered. The child care center at that time had approximately 70 plus children and staff members. The children range in age from 2 to 5 years old. As the suspect was attempting to climb the fence armed with a handgun, he posed a significant threat to the children and the staff. Once the officers fired their handguns, striking the suspect one time in the finger, it was at that point when the suspect surrendered. The suspect was taken into custody. He was transported to a local hospital where he's receiving treatment for a gunshot wound to his hand. He is expected to survive. Both officers were not injured. This is obviously very early on in the investigation. There were a lot of witnesses in the area, and we can see some external video cameras from both the child care center and some neighboring businesses. The San Diego Police Department's homicide unit is investigating this case. We do not believe that there are any outstanding suspects. The second individual who was with the armed suspect at the time they were first contacted by the officers fled after the armed suspect stood and ran from the officers after he pointed the gun at the officer. We do not know the whereabouts of that person, nor do we know his name. Are there any questions?
So was the suspect on the other side of the fence inside the daycare property when the officer shot the suspect?
No. The suspect was actually attempting to climb the fence. He was still armed with the gun at the time that he was attempting to climb the fence, and that's when the officers fired their service weapons.
Now the owner's very concerned because obviously there's a shooting directed at a daycare. Can you kind of address those concerns, the children's safety, the officer's safety, and why they would be so worried?
Well, you know, we have a situation where we have a witness who reported a suspect armed with a gun, and a witness, the same witness, who reported hearing, the gun being fired. That's the information that the officers had as they arrived at the scene. One officer contacts two individuals, one of whom produces a handgun and points it at the officer. It was at that point where the suspect refuses to comply with the officer's commands. The officer actually has to duck for cover, thinking he's going to be shot. The suspect ran toward that daycare center on his own. He posed an immediate threat to all the staff members and the children. The officers literally had no time to provide any kind of warning to the staff members, to bring the children into a place of safety. That armed suspect is climbing the fence, and if he is able to get over that fence armed with a handgun, the potential for significant violence and harm to both children and adults is difficult to predict, but you can see what the potential was. There were no staff members or children injured as a result of this incident. Both officers had body-worn cameras affixed to their uniforms, and both of those cameras were on at the time of shooting. We have a tentative identification on the suspect, which I cannot provide at this point. He is a Filipino male, and he's an adult.
Just a quick synopsis. Two guys. One cop comes. One guy who's armed points the gun at the cop even though he tells him to get down. The cop moves back. The guy runs towards the stadium. The guy tries to climb over, does climb over the fence. At what point is he shot? Is he shot before he climbs over the fence?
Before he gets to the other side.
Before he gets to the other side, he's shot in the finger. Correct?
Struck in the finger, yes.
Okay, does he ever make it inside the daycare?
He makes it over to the other side of the fence inside the daycare center. As he's going over the fence, he actually tosses the gun that he was armed with back onto the parking lot side. That's where the gun was recovered.
So is he inside the daycare with the door? I mean, because I was told that there's no way to get from that hallway into the daycare.
No, once you're in that hallway, there's actually a classroom literally feet away. And that classroom, when I was over there, was filled with children and staff members.
Are you guys actively searching for the second suspect?
Does anyone else have any other questions?
What about the second suspect?
We don't have any information on that.
So is it, are you making a call to the public if they know anything?
Yes, absolutely. There were a lot of witnesses here at the scene, but there may be other people who were either walking or driving by who may have information regarding any of the other individuals involved in this incident. We would encourage them to call the Sonoma Police Department.
How many shots were fired by the officers? And how many shots were fired by the citizens?
I don't have that information.
And do we know, like, years of police officers involved?
Yeah, so we'll put out a press release at some point in the next day or two, and at that point is when most likely the second press release, as you know. The initial one we put out a summary of what occurred, and then after all the notifications are made, we'll put out one identifying the suspect and the officers.
Can you say how and when the children were released to their parents?
You know, I have to commend, the initial responding officers from Western Division. One of the first priorities for them were to establish a reunification process for the children. And so Western Division patrol officers worked very closely with the staff of the daycare center to make sure that the children were cared for and that they were safely returned to their families.
How many gunshots were heard at near the Tonka shop?
The reporting party reported hearing at least one gunshot. I'm sorry, there was a question over here.
And how long will this area be blocked off?
Several more hours.
Can you estimate the age of the gunman?
He's an adult. I don't have his age.